Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video, and today I've got my Toronto Regionals tournament report for you all, where I ended up, unfortunately, not making day 2. I ended up losing the winning into day 2. I'll talk about that in my tournament run, but I ended up playing Charizard to Toronto. I played the Slow Charizard deck that I've been really enjoying for the past couple of weeks now. I'm going to break down my deck, my list, and all that stuff, and then my tournament run in today's video. Haven't made day 2 in my hometown yet. This is the 4th Toronto Regionals, and I have not day 2'd yet, which is kind of wild to me. But hopefully, maybe next year they have it again. We can pull off the day 2. I want to thank everybody who came up to me this weekend and said hi, took a picture with me, and all that good stuff. Got me to sign something. Had a lot of fun, and I love meeting people. So happy to have met you all. So yeah, ended up playing in Toronto with Charizard, Pidgeot, because I was playing this deck for the past couple weeks now. If you actually saw on my community posts and on my Twitter, I won my local tournament back-to-back weeks with this deck. The first week, I ended up winning it with a Max Belt variant of the deck, where I played Max Belt and Shaman over Unfair Stamp, Defiance Band, and then last weekend, my local tournament was hosting a warm-up tournament for Toronto. It was like a 63-player tournament. A lot of prizing on the line, and I ended up winning that tournament with this list. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna play the deck to Toronto. This deck's pretty good. And also, I wanted to try to put a Charizard Pidgeot deck on my Limitless page. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do that this tournament, but I did have fun with the deck regardless. And I still think this deck is actually fairly solid in the meta. It does have a bit of a shaky Gholdengo matchup. And I guess that's one of the downsides, and I'll talk about that in my tournament run too. But the list felt pretty good. I didn't change a single card from my run that I had at my local tournament where I won it, because I was like, I really like the change I made. I changed the Defiance Band with the Shaman, then I added the Unfair Stamp into the deck over the Max Belt, because Unfair Stamp just feels a lot stronger in the deck. This deck can make comebacks out of nowhere. Also, the Unfair Stamp is a lot stronger into Gholdengo, because you can use it, you can slam it down, you can stamp the Gholdengo opponent into a bad hand, and then you just kind of hopefully run them over from there. And Stamp's just really good in general. It's a really good disruption card in a lot of situations and a lot of matchups. You can really cripple your opponent's setup. Usually with this deck, if you get to buy one turn with the Unfair Stamp, you're probably going to win the game, and that's the idea of the deck. Also, this Charizard Pidgeot deck has a way better matchup into Dragapult, because it relies heavily on TM Evo. It has a double Pidgeotto line in the deck. It's got Monkey Dory. It's got Psyduck. It's trying to be a lot stronger into Dragapult. And I tested a lot of Dragapult before the tournament, and I was pretty comfortable with that matchup. It's honestly maybe favored for you. If you play it well enough, it's actually favored for you, in my opinion. Also, this deck's pretty good against Gardevoir. It's not bad into the Charizard Mirror. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, overall, the deck felt very strong. I added the Defiance Band of the deck. That was the cuttable card. The entire week leading up to Toronto, I was debating cutting the Defiance Band out of the deck for maybe Shaman, putting that back in if I was ever scared of Wellspring shenanigans. I thought about cutting the Defiance Band for Tool Scrapper, because there's a lot of talk about Drifloon and Turbo Guardy coming back into the format. So I thought maybe we should cut the Defiance Band for a Scrapper, or I was thinking about cutting the Lopunny line, but I think Lopunny's pretty good because it just improves your matchup against Cornerstone decks. So if you end up hitting Kangaskhan or Mega Absol, or even if you hit another wall type deck that has Cornerstone or Crustle, you just have a way better time with the Lopunny. Lopunny's also just a really good attacker. It's a very efficient attacker that does big damage without needing to set up a Charizard. So it's actually really good against stuff like Terrabox and against stuff like Joltik Box. So I found the Lopunny to actually be a pretty useful card in the deck. You don't use it all the time, but when it does come up, it's actually a very good card in the deck. It's also a great way to kind of close out the game instead of needing Charizard Boss. If you can't continuously chain Charizards, you can always bench Lopunny or bench Baniri, and then you just need Boss Lopunny energy to win the game, which is not hard to pull off if you have Pidgeot and Fez in play. So I thought the Lopunny was a good addition into the deck. It is definitely cuttable. I honestly think after this tournament, I didn't use Lopunny in most of my games, and also I didn't hit a Cornerstone deck. Maybe cut the Lopunny out after this tournament. I probably would just cut the Lopunny out maybe after this. If Cornerstone's play rate is actually going to be much lower now, which I expect it to be, you probably don't need the Lopunny anymore. It is just nice to have the option to use it. It's not always necessary, but I can definitely see Lopunny getting cut out of the deck for maybe a Moltres, a second Chiyu, Briar. There's a lot of tech cards you can add in the deck. This deck has room to be teched out, which I do like. But the deck's very strong. I enjoyed playing it. My backup pick for this tournament is going to be Dragapult, Charizard, or Grimmsnarl. But I ended up just sticking to my guns because I've been just basically playing this deck for like 2 weeks now, and I was like, I don't want to just switch off a deck that I've been testing and practicing so much with, because it's not going to end well. And I did make it all the way to the winning in with the deck. And the one thing that I was like deciding on was like whether or not this deck actually beats Gholdengo. Because even the night before the tournament, I was heavily considering cutting Lopunny for a 1/1 line of Toedscruel, which is a little over-teched for Gholdengo. But like the deck is going to be really popular. I'm expecting to at least hit 2 or 3 of them in the tournament in day 1. I probably should respect it. But I ended up deciding that, you know what, with what we have, it's fine. It's enough to beat Gholdengo. Not really enough to beat Gholdengo, unfortunately. Dengo is a tough matchup. It sucks because you have actually like good firepower in the deck, but Dengo's just a ridiculous, cheesy deck that draws way too many cards and has way too much pressure with the Zoroark Lunatone engine. So the matchup ends up being more trickier than I expected, but the deck felt good overall, and I'm happy that I played it to the tournament. I think everything I had was like perfect for the deck. Like the Lopunny was cuttable because I didn't really hit any cornerstone. Other than that, though, every other card was really good. Defiance Band I liked. The main reason why Defiance Band is in here is because it's like with Monkey Dory, it's an extra 60 damage a turn if you're behind in prizes, which this deck does try to play from behind sometimes. And the Defiance Band was good against Dragapult to take a big knockin' on it out of nowhere. Also really good in the Charizard Mirror match because you're not playing Max Belt, so it's nice to have the band. And band's decent too with Pidgeot in some scenarios. A lot of people really underestimate how good Pidgeot is in this deck. It is a really good attacker in this deck. I attacked with Pidgeot quite a lot in the tournament. Honestly, the main attackers were just Charizard and Pidgeot the entire time, and then obviously Chi-Yu if I was against Gholdengo. Tatsugiri's really good. Honestly, like, Tassu, like, saved my butt this entire tournament. The amount of dead hands you would have, you just go Poff and retreat into Tassu, you find a Lily, it's like, oh my, it's the best feeling ever. So, yeah, great deck. Loved it a lot. And let's talk about my tournament run now with the Slow Charizard deck. Would I run this deck back to Toronto again? Would I play to EYC? I would consider it. And I definitely would go back and forth on some changes to the deck. So, yeah, this is my run. I ended up finishing 554th place at 422. Again, losing at the winning in to day 2. So, round 1, I hit a Gholdengo deck. So, wasn't surprised to hit Dengo round 1. It was the most played deck in the room. Everybody was playing Gholdengo. Yeah, round 1, hit the Dengo. I think I won at game 1 with the unfair stamp Chi-Yu strat. Because, like, ideally against Dengo, you go, like, you set up your board, ideally, right? If you go second, you can Team Evo out a Pidgeotto and a Charmeleon. They go knock out your active, most likely, unless you start Monkey Dory or Chi-Yu, which you don't want to start Chi-Yu, because you actually don't want to have Chi-Yu in play early in the game. If you start Monkey Dory or something or whatever, they won't knock it out. But most of the time, your opponent's turn 1 is Arvin, Air Balloon, Zoroark, knock out Tatsugiri, knock out your Charmander, Pidgey in the active. They take the first prize. You just go Charizard, unfair stamp, knock out Zoroark, maybe even counter catcher, kill their lone Gimme Ghoul if they didn't bench a second Gimme. And you basically just hope that you can buy yourself like a couple turns by doing that. And then if you buy a few turns, you stabilize a really good board, you can easily just set up a win con where you're able to just go back-to-back KOs with Chi-Yu Charizard against Gholdengo. Really, the matchup is just buy a turn with unfair stamp. And that's basically the strategy against Gholdengo. Though some Dengo players were teching in Watchtower. My round 1 opponent did not play Watchtower, though. But I won game 1. I think he won game 2. And then we ended up tying. We just didn't have enough time to finish the game. And then round 2, I hit Grimmsnarl. This was a matchup that I was a little unprepared for. And honestly, it was a pretty bad matchup. I don't play Max Belt. I think if I had Max Belt in the deck, I think this matchup would be a lot closer. But I don't play Max Belt. Instead, I play Defiance Band, Unfair Stand, which isn't even that bad in this matchup, don't get me wrong. But this deck definitely is tough. Game 1, my opponent played it pretty well. They did not take any prizes. Like, they literally just sat there and put damage on my board. Like, I mist-energied my Pidgeot, set up Charizard, all that stuff. It didn't matter. I ran out of boss really quickly, and my opponent literally, like I said, just sat there and put damage on my board. I maybe should have played a little bit differently. I had a couple turns where I maybe should have just attacked into the Grimmsnarl when he had a Monkey Dory or 2 in play, just to put on enough pressure to KO them, but I didn't. So I probably didn't play game 1 very well. I didn't really practice against Grimm for this tournament, but, like, it's a tough matchup, in my opinion. Again, you don't play the Max Belt. You have Monkey and Mist Energy, which actually do help a lot, but it's not enough, in my opinion. The Grimm play, like, he played it really well game 1. Game 2, I did end up winning the game. He had a really good turn where he retreated his damaged Grimmsnarl. So what happened was I had 1 boss left in the deck and a counter catcher, and I was on 4 prizes. So he retreated Grimmsnarl into, like, a Monkey Dory, and then TM Evo'd out a second Frostlass. So his board was, like, double Frostlass, Blood Moon or Saluna, heavily damaged Grimm, and a Monkey Dory. And the thing with the double Frostlass was it was able for him to kill my Pidgeot. So what I did was I used my last boss on his Frostlass. No, I was at 3 prizes, not 4. Yeah, I bossed his last Frostlass to go to 2. His second Frostlass to go to 2. So my Pidgeot was actually safe from getting knocked out by the double Frostlass tick. So what happened was, basically, I did the KO on the Frostlass, and I think I just had to pray that he didn't have Counter Catcher for game. And then thankfully he prized his Counter Catcher, and his second Counter Catcher was prized. He didn't have boss in hand. So then he knocked something out, and then I just went Arvin. He KO'd my Pidgeot. KO'd my Pidgeot. So I had to pray he didn't have the Counter Catcher. Kills Pidgeot, and then I just go Arvin for Counter Catcher for game. I basically, it came down to me playing into him not having Counter Catcher. I don't think I played the matchup very well. The matchup's tough. It's a hard matchup. If I played Max Belt, it'd probably be a bit easier. But even then, like I said, game 1, he just didn't take any prizes. Like, Max Belt would have been completely useless for the most part. But, yeah, this matchup's tough. I'm happy to walk away with a tie. We just didn't. Literally, time got called on my turn when I went Arvin Counter Catcher for game. So, yeah, we couldn't finish game 3, obviously. We ended up tying, which I'm fine with. I'm okay to take a tie to a matchup that I'm not very well experienced in, and a matchup that I think is actually slightly difficult for my deck to beat, and is unfavored. Round 3, we hit another Gholdengo. Big shocker there. Gholdengo with some interesting tech cards. He had Rigid Band, which is really bad for me because it stops my Chi from one-shotting him. And he also had an interesting Stunfisk in the deck that could retreat lock your opponent's active Pokemon, which actually ended up being relevant in game number... Was it game number 2 or 1? Either way, so what happened was I did win game 1. It came down, he trapped my guy with Stunfisk to try to buy a turn to then try to go boss for a game with Gholdengo the following turn. But because my deck plays 2 Jet Energy, I just went Quick Search Jet, and then I won the game. Game 2, he just ended up winning because I got just kind of steamrolled. So what happens with the Gholdengo? When you're playing a deck like this, which is slightly slower and doesn't have as much pop-off potential, Gholdengo sometimes just gets to run you over, and you just can't do anything about it. It's just my favorite part about this format is Gholdengo being a good deck. Not really, but got run over game 2. Then game 3, I think game 3 was close. I think what happened was I think Unfair Stamp did its job, and then I forget what it came down to. I think game 3 came down to him needing double SER boss for game, and he whiffed it. I mean, that's all you can really do with this Gholdengo matchup sometimes is you disrupt their hand with an Iono or an Unfair Stamp, and then you just pray that they do not have the double SCR boss combo to win. Because, yeah, what happened was I went Iono, Chiyu, killed Dengo, and he had to just not draw a boss double SCR for game, and he whiffed it, which was really good. So, squeaked out a dub there, which definitely could have been a lot closer with how game 3 ended up going. I don't really want to always bring the Dengo matchup down to a 50-50 where it's if you just draw a boss SCR off of your 10 cards you get to see in a single turn, it feels bad, but that's Dengo, man. The deck is hard to beat. There's not really any good way to stop it. Like I said, kind of maybe wish I played Toadscroll instead of Lopunny. The matchup wouldn't have been as close, and I would have maybe made day 2 because my last game against Dengo wouldn't have been as bad. So, I don't know, maybe Toadscroll was just better overall for this weekend than the Lopunny. I think it was. With all the Dengo I ended up playing against, I wish I had a Toadscroll in the deck, or I wish I had a little bit more literal firepower in the deck, like a Moltres or something, so that I didn't always just get bent over by Dengo, just always drawing 50 million cards after I Iono or stamp them in the late game and throw Chiyu in the active. It's they're always going to find boss double SCR because Dengo is kind of a broken deck that just sees too many cards a single turn. Then round number 4, played against Gardy. This matchup I was very comfortable in. The matchup against Gardy is effectively just go 1-1-2-2. You never want to go 1-1-1-2-2. You always want to go 1-1-2-2 in the prize trade. The idea of the matchup is set up double Pidgeot if you can, set up Charizard, 2 Charizards if you can, set up Lopunny sometimes in the late game so that if you need to kill a Fez or a Mew to round out the game, the option is there without needing to set up 3 Charizard. It is difficult to set up 3 Charizard against Gardy sometimes when they set up a really good board, and usually because you're trying to play slow, you're usually giving them time to set up a good board. So basically, like I said, you go knockout. A lot of the time you want to go Unfair Stamp boss or Counter Catcher Unfair Stamp on their Gardevoir, knock that out. Maybe the stamp sticks for a turn, which usually wins you the game. And then what happens is they set another Gardy, they mention Fez or Mew, which usually they have to do after you stamp them. Then you can just go Gust again, knock that out, and then, yeah, you just go 1-1-2-2 for the prize trade. It's a pretty decent matchup. It's definitely still close. I'm not saying Gardevoir is a matchup that, they can always lose to, but it can get close. But overall, I think the matchup is favored. You have Mist Energy, so they can't do any Mind Bend shenanigans. You can Mist Energy your Pidgeot or your Charizard, so they can't try to Devo it. You have Monkey Dory, so you can punish them if they get a little too aggressive with their Screamtail plays. You can go Adrenabrain, knock out Screamtail sometimes if you catch them off guard. You don't always put Monkey down, but when you have the option to, you can surprise Screamtail or Drifloon by taking a knockout if they leave damage on your board, which sometimes they will do because of you having like multi-stage shoes. You know what I mean? So it's not a bad matchup. I won both games. Game 2 was close, actually. I think I still had game the following turn, but he had a really good turn where I had a damaged Charizard on the bench with my Charizard on the bench had 70 HP left, and then my active Charizard was full HP. What he could have done, but he was on 5 prizes, but what he could have done that turn, and he was 1 card off, he could have went double Monkey Dory on my bench Charizard. So I was on... No, wait. I'm trying to think. What was it? No. My Charizard had 6 HP on the bench. My active had full HP. So he could have went double Monkey, killed my Charizard on the bench. Turo, the... Oh, no, my active Charizard was heavily damaged. My bench Charizard was not damaged. So he could have went double Monkey, kill active. And then he could have went Mew Counter Catcher plus Turo, bench Monkey again, Adrenabrain for 3 damage, and then knock out my full HP Charizard when I was on 2 prizes remaining. So that actually almost came up. I think he said he was 1 card short of doing that, which was kind of scary. So that was close. I think I still had game, though. The following turn, I was still going to be able to go Charizard. I had a Charmeleon on the bench with 50 damage on it. So had he done that, I think I would have been able to go quick search for the piece I needed to set up another Charizard and win the game. And if he did Iono me, but he did Iono me also into game anyways, so it didn't matter what happened there. I think I was going to win regardless, but it was very close to see him potentially take like a crazy 4-prize turn out of nowhere with like Turo Triple Monkey. Game number 5, I hit Terrazard, Donzard. This is a matchup that I was a little nervous about. I don't think that it's a bad matchup if you play it well. You actually have a lot of power. Like, Unfair Stamp is pretty good in the matchup. Psyduck is extremely important. Having Pidgeot plus double Artisan is really good to remove their Area Zeros from play. I just don't think I played the matchup very well. I'm not very good in Charizard Mirror, I swear. But game 1 I won because he, like, bricked. Game 2 I lost because... I prized double Charizard. I didn't realize it until it was too late. I didn't really prize check my Charizards. And I didn't set up a low punny, so I got punished. Game number 3 was a lot more interesting. So he had a slow start once again. He didn't get to Fan Rotom. He had started Pheasantipity. So what I did was, and this is, I think, what kind of cost me the game in the end. What I did was, I went Rare Candy Charizard. I punched into his Pheasantipity for 180 damage. And the reason I did this is because at any point in the game, if I never see that Fez get discarded off the board, I can smack it for 180 damage, and then I can Monkey Dory, knock it out later on in the game for 30 damage. Unfortunately, that's, I think, what cost me the game, because in the end, it came down to him needing Briar for a game. Now, I still made it very close, and I unfortunately did Unfair Stamp him into the perfect combination to win, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But I think I played game 3 very sloppily, where I shouldn't have gotten so tunnel visioned on the idea of just killing his Pheasantipity with Monkey Dory. And I think I leaned a little too heavily into that idea, where I never even got a chance to do the Monkey Dory play. So I think I got a little too greedy there. And that ended up screwing me over, because in the end, I didn't prize map the game very well. And I basically brought the game down to him needing Briar for game. So what I ended up doing was I went Unfair Stamp, Counter Catcher, or Unfair Stamp, Boss Fez, Pidgeot in the active spot, Blustery Wind, knock out the Pheasantipity, because my turn 2 was like double Candy, which was crazy. I pulled off the double Candy play turn 2 with a Lily, but it ended up just coming down to me never sent up another Charizard, so I had to attack with Pidgeot. But I did have game the following turn, so I can go knockout. I knocked out his Fez on 3 prizes, discarded the Stadium, and then also took out the Fez. Plus, I Unfair Stamped him. So he just needed Briar for game. He had a single Hoot in play, no Pidgeot, just a Hoot. That's all he had, 1 Hoot to find Briar. I stamp him the 2, pray didn't find Noctowl. I'm like, okay, I'll kill your Fez, stamp the 2, might have a chance to win the game. I Unfair Stamped him into Super Rod Nest Ball. So, I mean, it's not literally the Noctowl, but, like, that's still pretty insane that he drew Super Rod Nest Ball off of a stamp. He had a lot of cards in the deck that were probably not very playable, so stamping him into a great card combination was very tragic, because he went Rod the Fez back, Nest Ball it out, flip the script, draw Noctowl, and I'm like, oh my god, what is Unfair Stamp even on today? I think this was like the second or third game where Unfair Stamp did not do a thing. In fact, it just gave my opponent the winning hand. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. Now, I mean, my chances to win weren't like super high. Like the likelihood of him getting Noctowl wasn't even that low. But had he not got Noctowl there, I was probably going to win the game. I think my following turn was good enough to set up finally get another Charizard into play. Didn't think I would have been able to kill his Charizard to win the game, or at least put myself far enough ahead to win. So very unfortunate on my end where I just stamped him into Nest Ball Super Rod to get Fez back, and then he Fez back into the thing. Like I kill his Fez, and then he literally draws the 2-card combo to get it back. I'm like, okay, dude, come on. Unfair Stamp is a lie. So Stamp really was not on my side this weekend. That was like very unfortunate that had to happen. Round number 6, I did end up hitting Dragapult Dusknoir. Another matchup that I was pretty comfortable with. Game number 1, I ended up winning because he had a brick start. And I set up really quickly and just aggressively attacked into him, knowing that he had a slow start. Game number 2, I lost because I got bulldozed, because I went second, got item locked, and just couldn't do anything with it. Game number 3 was a lot more interesting, where it was a little bit more back and forth, but I made sure that his board never really was that good. He had Budu and Hawlucha and Latias in play, and a Duskull, so he could only ever have 2 Dreepies and Cloaks in play at all times. So I just chased his engine, and then eventually I Unfair Stamped him at a really good moment, where I took out his Dracloak, stamped him to 2, smacked into his Dragapult, and the stamp didn't give him anything, so then the following turn, killed his Dragapult, he Blood Moon KO'd me. I did misplay where I could have won a turn earlier. I made a misplay where I preemptively quick searched, forgetting that I probably should have just quick searched for another Charizard piece so that I could just kill his Blood Moon. I didn't really, for some reason, didn't do that. So I got a little too ahead of myself, didn't do that, and then I didn't get punished, but he ended up Blood Mooning me, and I'm like, oh, if I just quick searched a turn earlier for a Charizard piece, I just have game here. And I didn't do that for some reason. So I went Iono him to 1, and then I smacked into his Blood Moon with Pidgeot with a Defiance Band, which I had active. I was on 2 prizes, he was on 1. I owned him to 1, Pidgeot Defiance Band for 150. I owned him into Lily. Well, I'm like, okay, wow, that's kind of crazy. But it didn't matter because I win the following turn regardless. Literally, as long as he doesn't Lily into, like, some ridiculous combo, which I don't think was even possible at that point. So he just retreated into Latias, but, like, I had Candy Zard or Boss for game with Quick Search on the Blood Moon. So, yeah, it was close. But, yeah, like I said, the Dragapult matchup I do think is pretty decent for this deck. Also, one line that I like to go for, I didn't use it in this tournament, but I really like using Fez against Dragapult. If you're able to set up Fezandipity without exhausting too many fire energies, you can actually use Fez as an attacker to take out their Draclo. Because against the Dragapult matchup, you're just trying to go around the Dragapult. You're going after their engine. You're taking out their Dracloaks. So eventually, when you Iono and stamp them, you're giving Dragapult nothing to work with, and it allows you to just kind of make a big comeback turn or swing turn out of nowhere with Charizard, Monkey Dory, knock it on their Dragapult. So Fez is not a bad attacker against Dragapult. So that's something you want to keep your eye out on. I didn't use it, but it's a play that I do like to do in the Dragapult matchup of this deck. Round number 7, I did hit Zoroark. Another matchup that I thought was like kind of sus because I don't play Max Belt. If I played Max Belt, this matchup would be like free, but I don't play Max Belt, so it's a little bit more trickier to navigate. I have to be very careful with how I play the game out. I thought about maybe using Pidgeot as a way to attack into a Zoroark, so I can hit Zoroark for 120, and then he can't blow up the Pidgeot, and I can like Pidgeot into Charizard knockout. He did poison his Zoroark, though, so I couldn't do the Pidgeot play, because with the poison damage, he would have been able to knock out Pidgeot with Rage. So I went like turn 2, counter catcher kill, Petch, game 1. I think I just 2-2-2'd him game 1, and then game number 3, or game number 2 was a little bit closer. My setup was a bit weaker, but I just kind of stayed in the game, and I was actually thinking about, I'm like, should I concede? Because we don't have, like, this game is going to go on forever. Like, if I don't scoop, we're going to tie, and I can't afford a tie. But I ended up winning game number 3, or game number 2, because thankfully, this is, like, actually the one time I needed to stick. He had 2 Boss and a Secret Box in the deck, 1 Zoroark in play, and I had a heavily damaged Pidgeot on my board that I couldn't Turo and heal to make my board unbreakable, where he couldn't do a Gust for game. So basically what I had to do is I had to go Unfair Stamp to 2, kill his active Zoroark with Charizard, and if he draws Boss for game, I lose. So I go Stamp to 2, knockout, and he goes Zoroark, he trades, and he whiffs Boss for game. Stamp actually won me the game for 1. That was literally the one game where Unfair Stamp decided the outcome of the game. I stamp him, whiffs Boss, just what I needed. And that's the one time Stamp did not betray me. So, double-edged sword card. Stamp my opponent into game, stamp my opponent into no game. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, Zoroark is sketchy. Again, if we play Max Belt over Stamp, the matchup is really free because you can just go Max Belt Charizard, and that kills 2 Zoroarks, and like you can't really lose if that does happen. Next up is Gholdengo in round number 8. So yeah, this is the win-in match. Hit Gholdengo with Watchtower. Oh my goodness. And this is where I ended up losing, was because he had Watchtower. So game 1 was pretty trivial. I went Unfair Stamp Charizard. Unfair Stamp Charizard Countercatcher his Fez that he started with, which was cool. But the game came down to me needing to make a checkmate board state. So what happened was, in game number 1, my board was really good, and my hand was really good. Obviously, I'm not respecting a Gholdengo player playing Iono. Like, my hand was good enough to win the game. So what I was going to do was, on my second last turn, I was going to go Chi-Yu, knock out Gholdengo, Turo my Pidgeot, and I had both candies still in hand. So I was going to go Turo Pidgeot, bench Pidgey, and what happens is, the following turn, he kills my Chi-Yu. He has no way to take the last 2 prizes because he was on 2. So he had no way to take game that following turn if I Turo my Pidgeot. My board was Chi-Yu, Charmander, Charmander, Pidgey. And my hand was good enough to go Candy Pidgeot, Candy Charizard. The problem is I needed to use Quick Search in order to make that play happen. So I go Turo my Pidgeot. Okay, I win. The problem is, the turn before, he slams down a Watchtower out of nowhere on me, and I can't use Quick Search to Turo my Pidgeot. And unfortunately, because of that, also, I couldn't do an Iono play where I can maybe go Iono Charizard and pray he whiffs game. Couldn't even do that. Obviously, he's going to have boss double SCR for game, which unfortunately he did have. He actually almost whiffed it, I'm pretty sure, in game number 8. I think he was like very close to whiffing it, but he ended up drawing it off of the last coin bonus, which was unfortunate. So that sucked. I would have won game 1 if he didn't play Watchtower. Also, if I had Artisan in hand, I also would have been fine. I didn't have Artisan, obviously. So that's unfortunate. Pretty rough loss to take to Gholdengo Watchtower, but that was something that I was thinking about this weekend. Is like, if I do it a Gholdengo player, what's the likelihood they have a random Watchtower in their deck? And unfortunately, the winning in one of the most important games in the tournament for me, I had to hit a Gholdengo deck with a Watchtower. Nothing I can do. And then game number 2, I prized my Chi-Yu, and I prized 2 Fire Energy. So I could only set up 1 Charizard, and I went Unfair Stamp Charizard, and I'm like, okay, I can maybe win the game if this sticks. Nope. Unfair Stamp. I stamped him, and he drew 10 plus cards in 1 turn and knocked out my Charizard. And I'm like, wow. And I had no other attacker in play at that point. I couldn't make another Charizard either, so yeah, I didn't even have Pidgey on play either. So, like, yeah, I basically needed to buy a turn with Charizard and stamp there. And nope, unfortunately, he knocked me out and I lost basically on the spot. So, cool stuff. Overall, you know what? I'm still happy with the tournament run. A little unfortunate. I had some games where Unfair Stamp was a lie, and then obviously hitting a very awkward Gholdengo matchup in the last round to lose the winning in isn't ideal. One day I will make day 2 in Toronto Regionals. I thought this was it. When I made the win, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm finally gonna make day 2. Somehow the curse might be lifted. I might be able to make day 2 at Toronto. And yeah, like I said, did not happen. I ended up losing the winning in to Gholdengo. But overall, you know what? I'm happy with the deck. This deck is a lot of fun to play. The Dengo matchup, like I said, I wish I maybe teched a little bit harder for it. Like, I don't want to make my deck, like, terrible. Like, I don't want to cut the Lopunny out to add a Toadskrull or, like, a Moltres into the deck just to, like, make Dengo more easier to beat. But I think that might be the reality. I think this deck does need to have another answer to Gholdengo than just Stamp Chi-Yu. I don't think it's enough. Like, it definitely works, but when it doesn't work, it feels really bad, and it didn't work a lot of the time in this tournament. So definitely debating the Lopunny getting cut. Also, nobody's playing Cornerstone anyways. I didn't see a single Kangaskhan deck the entire tournament when I sat down. So probably the Lopunny's no longer needed. It's like I said, it's still good to have in niche scenarios like against Terra Box, against Joltik Box, even against Charizard. It's not the worst card thanks to you having access to Turo. But like, I don't know, the Lopunny, I think for this tournament, probably could have cut it. Maybe should have added a Toadskrull or a Moltres into the deck to make the Dengo matchup easier, because obviously, at the end of the day, Dengo is what ended up costing me my tournament run, so should have probably respected Dengo a little bit more, which I thought our deck was fine in Dengo, but it's not. But anyways, this deck, it was fun to play. Happy that I played Charizard to the tournament. GG's to all my opponents. Every opponent that I had was, like, wonderful. Didn't have a miserable experience at all. All my opponents were awesome. and I just love it. So, still like competing, still excited. I am skipping EYC this year. I will be going to Seattle, though, which I'm excited for. I haven't been to Seattle before, but I'll be skipping EYC, going to Seattle, so hoping to see some of y'all there, too. And maybe we'll run back the Charizard deck to Seattle. I'm considering it. We're going to, see a Zoroark meta in that format, because Zoroark's getting better with Zekrom, so that's cool. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video on Charizard, Pidgeot, Tournament Run. Cool deck. Cut Lopunny for Toadcruel or Moltres, and maybe add like a Briar into the deck or something like that. That's not a bad idea. Briar. Maybe even add another, yeah, Briar probably. Maybe a third Candy. Third Candy's not bad either. Definitely does help against Dingo sometimes. But yeah, overall, thought the deck was really cool. Glad I played it. Did make day 2. That's fine. Still did decent enough. Like, 4-2-2 is not bad. Losing the winning in, whatever, is what it is. Catch you on the video very soon. Probably going to look at all the decks in day 2. Peace out.